YouTube is live, and as soon as I see the visual confirmation that we're on YouTube, then we'll officially kick off the meeting. YouTube is and live. I hear my own voice coming through YouTube, so we are good to go. Um, Welcome everybody to the 2025, March 25. That's a lot of 25s. March 25, 2025, Rider Oversight Committee meeting. I'm Stefan Wunsch. I'm the co-chair along with Wig Zamor. Wig, want to just say hi? Also,
Yep,
make sure your audio sounds good.
I'm Wig, Somerville, longtime member, along with the two partners here. Happy to be here, as always.
And always glad to have you. Thank you, Wig. And Len, want to just say hi, introduce yourself?
Sure. Leonard Diggins, me, an East Darlington resident, and I use the T maybe for everything, or I walk.
Yeah, thank you very much. Hopefully, we'll get Craig joining us in a little bit, and members of the public may join the Zoom or just be on YouTube. I try to keep an eye out on Zoom attendees where Sam at first showed up. If people start watching the YouTube stream and ask questions at the appropriate time, if it's as time allows, I might bring those up. But unless any one of the three of you gents would like to make anything under the auspices of public comment before we move into the discussion with Sam, then we can do so. Sam, welcome aboard. It's great to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Hi, everybody. My name is Sam Taylor. I'm the program manager of performance-based planning and programming at the Boston Region Metropolitan Planning Organization. And thank you all for having me. I think what I'm going to do, which I shared with Len, is I am first going to put a couple links in the chat because that'll help guide our discussion. People can click around and see different displays on transit safety stats. But what right after that, what I also will do is I will just show you just a few slides. I won't put you all to sleep. I'll show you just a few slides so I can kind of tee up some good discussion on what you'll see on the other side on the links. Does that sound good?
Yeah. Yeah. When you're ready, just let me know and I'll stop sharing this for the benefit of which is mostly benefit of YouTube, and I will let you share. So absolutely.
Sounds good. This is the Boston Region MPO dashboard. I'm typing into here. Okay, so what I've done is I put two links in the chat. Leave those for now. Feel free to click around while I'm speaking. But
right.
one of those is a memo on the Boston Region MPO's transit safety performance targets, which was posted and shared to our meeting calendar and with attendees of the February 20th MPO board meeting. And the other link is to the dashboard that the MPO maintains on federally required performance measures. And this is a federally required performance area. I apologize, you will have to click one more time. Of course, we're talking about transit safety, so there's 6 big buttons on the home screen. The transit safety one will take you to the right place.
Excellent.
And yes, I will now attempt to, oops, I got to send a request.
Oh yeah, no problem. You are
slides up here.
Yep. You should be good to go. I believe you've got the proper Zoom permission.
Right, thank you. And okay.
Oh, and I'll actually stop mine so it's not conflicting in any way. Yep, you should be able to present that now.
Gotcha. Do you all see what looks like a slideshow?
Perfect.
Right. Yeah, so Len Diggins was kind enough to reach out a couple weeks ago, as we're sort of in the Boston Region MPO is sort of in a performance target setting season, if you will. There's a handful of performance areas that the MPO must set targets on either annually or every 2 years or every 4 years. Transit safety is one of the 3 areas that MPOs and also transit agencies are required to set targets on each year. And so that typically occurs in February and March. And so this is a timely discussion in that we had just passed these targets, not necessarily timely in that transit safety is particularly timely in March for any reason. So I will move forward here. So these are I'll skip through some of these where applicable, but this is the presentation that board members received before taking a vote on this year's transit safety targets. And since there are three transit agencies in the Boston MPO region, MBTA, but also the Cape Ann Transportation Authority, the Metro West Regional Transit Authority, they are part of this presentation as well. I won't touch on any of that. Doesn't apply here. You all can click around. I would suggest either in that memo or in the dashboard, whenever you like, if you want to learn something about transit safety stats or anything else about CADA or MWRTA, but I will just focus on the T because that's what we're here for. So I will move on now. And this basically summarizes what I just said, in that the Boston Region MPO as part of the federally required, what they call performance-based planning and programming process. There are three performance areas in which we are required to pass targets annually. So we convened about roadway safety in early February, and then transit safety was the second one of these. That was on February 20th. And then at our March 6th meeting, we covered transit asset management, which is separate from transit safety. That covers monitoring performance and setting targets on the state of transit assets for the same three transit agencies. So basically what happens is the US DOT establishes requirements and establishes a set of safety measures, and these are housed in the National Public Transportation Safety Plan. And then transit agencies set targets for these safety measures, and then those get passed on to the MPO, and the MPO can either take the targets that are set by the transit agencies, or they also have the option and the privilege to set regionalized targets that are sort of I guess not independent of but unique from the transit agency's targets. So what the MPO has traditionally done is we have taken the transit agency's targets and presented those and recommended those to the board. We trust our transit agencies here in the Boston region. Of course, the three agencies all have pretty unique services and fleets and different points of emphasis and issues. So for that reason, it makes sense for the MPO to present the targets for each agency separately and adopt them all separately. So this year actually was an interesting year in that for the last 8 years, for which the Boston Region MPO and other MPOs have been required to set performance targets on transit safety measures. The ones on the left side of the screen, these 7 measures were the ones that were federally required. So those were the ones that RTAs reported on and set targets on. But this year there are actually 7 new measures on which agencies were to set targets. So these new ones over here on the right side are mainly concerned with transit worker safety, as well as collision-related measures. So you'll see some data in the documents and in the dashboard on transit worker safety and on collisions. But what you won't see are accompanying targets from past years because there aren't any. It is simply just recent performance. But what you will see is a 2025 target. So if you don't see a target, if you're wondering, well, how did they do in relation to 2022's target? That's not there because the MBTA and other agencies and MPOs were not required to set targets on those. So I've covered a lot of this. We do this annually. 7 of the 14 safety measures were new this year. And I'm also going to note the last bullet here, which is that while MPOs and transit agencies are required to set targets, the FTA does not impose penalty for failure to meet targets. It's an interesting I guess, part of the what they call the final rule. We're required to do this as an MPO. Transit agencies are required to do this, but there are no penalties for failure to meet targets. So I guess in theory, we could set the most, ambitious targets imaginable. We could set zeros for everything and, come up short each year, and there would be no penalty. But I guess that's probably not helpful for anybody, especially if we're trying to, improve incrementally over time. So what I'm going to do now is, this is not the best way to probably it is the best way to probably convey this information during a board meeting. But now that we kind of have the ability to get a little bit less formal and toggle around between screens, what I'd actually rather do is focus on what's on the dashboard. That would be an easier way to talk about this.
Well, yeah, by all means. However you'd like to lead this, please. Thank you.
I think that Len would concur. We could also use the memo, but basically, what you would have seen in the next few slides is that MBTA has 4 modes that it's required to set performance targets on. Those are still on the screen that you see here: heavy rail, light rail, bus, and the ride. Of course, that's paratransit. There are no targets here for ferry service. There are no targets here for commuter rail. That is handled separately through Keolis. It is not something that the MBTA teams up with the MBTA on for target setting. So these are the 4 modes for each of those 14 measures that we are talking about today. So actually, what I would like to do is get out of this. And I don't know if everybody else has a browser open, or if there's a certain screen you want me to share, or if anybody else wants to share one of the links that I showed.
I can if you'd like. I mean, I've still got that up.
But yeah, I mean, happy to go through any trends you notice, any questions about, I guess, why certain targets might have been set in a certain way. Like I said, we have 7 new ones, so there's kind of like limited historical data on those. But I think the main thing to note here is that we have performance going back to 2018 or 2019, depending on the measure. Everything's broken out by mode, but just the 4 modes that I mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we can. I don't want to continue to hammer you with information. I'd love for people to help chime in here and take the discussion wherever you would like.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a couple questions that we're going to want to move away from quickly, but as these guys know, I do a fair amount of air pollution and now noise environmental epidemiology, and we mostly focus on transportation, and we focus on near source exposures. So we're usually using ultrafine particles, which are not part of any regulatory process. And I just came back from 3 days at this year's Aviation Noise and Environment meeting, which was in Las Vegas, but it's always run by UC Davis. So my question is, I don't think you guys own this area to a great extent. Is there anybody who does own this area within the region, the state, or to your knowledge, the federal government? Our first doctorate's actually one of 5 people on core EPA KSAC. They decide all changes in national air pollution regulations. But I just leave that as a general question. Where, from your point of view, should I be looking to interface with government? Years ago, we were the last state out of conformity with the air pollution regulations in the country. Massachusetts had 100% of its land area out of conformity, that wasn't because of the things I look at. It was because we're downwind of the big cities in the Northeast and the big cities in the northern Midwest. And so we really couldn't do much about the ozone regulations. Do you have any thoughts about what I'm
Yeah,
asking?
I honestly don't know the answer to your question, but where I might start is see, I do wonder if there's any requirements or reporting requirements or otherwise that transit agencies are uh, uh, required to report to the FTA on. Perhaps if you haven't found anything in the EPA or at the state level, um, maybe there is a division in the FTA that would cover this. I wow, you found one that stumped me. That's not because
Yeah,
like you
that's
said,
okay.
it's not a performance measure that's covered in this um uh I guess portfolio, nor
Yeah,
is
that's
it in the
sure.
transit assets. But yeah,
I
I would
did
say the
not ask
FTA.
this with an expectation you would have good answers because I know it's not your function. Um, I've also been on the Massport Oversight Committee, similar group, but bigger and funded. Um, and there's actually more action in aviation that's easier to track. There's always a 3-day national meeting. Um, and part of that is because jet engines are international, and so whatever the Europeans are doing really has to be mirrored here. But I'll back off of this. I just thought I would throw it out. And if you have thoughts at a later date from someone you bump into, maybe just flip one of us an email.
Will do. Yeah, I'm gonna take down this question and really all your questions. Guess I should. But yeah, that's a good question. Let me look into that on maybe
Okay.
somebody on our team would know.
Just
Okay.
quickly, what was that question again, Wig?
Well, where should I look to interface um, on the issues of near source exposures to primary air pollution like
Okay.
ultrafine particles and also to noise? Those are actually front and present now for aviation, but not so much for surface transportation um, as they used to be. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't want to belabor it. I just wanted to lay it on the table in case you trip across something.
I'll just make
Oh,
a quick follow-up comment. I'm sorry, Len, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, looking for anything these days, government related is just tricky, right? Because it may have been there 3 months ago, and now it's not there. And
Yeah,
so
I
not
just
finding it doesn't mean that it wasn't around. It just means that it may not be there now. I'm just saying that just not to discourage you, just to just kind of point
no
out
no
the issues
I
that
got it.
one may encounter
I
when trying to find stuff these days.
yeah,
But
and to that point, EPA has started to creep back on screen in the last couple days. I mean, and I think other agencies will be similar where um, they know they can't just disappear and they're figuring out what kind of language can interface with the current administration. And so I'm seeing that tiptoe back. I've been looking for 6 months for any sign of US EPA Clean Air Scientific Advisory Committee, which has been responsible for the most fundamental and the most net benefit regulations in the country for the last 40 years, but they disappeared. But I think that stuff is just slowly creeping back in a way that the agencies hope will be compatible and not incendiary. But I've just seen the tip of it, Len. Um, and I did just for our guests, I do a lot of kind of scouting for formal research by the universities here. I created over 10,000 abstract collections from the National Institute of Health on my own in the last couple of years in these areas. But yeah, but I'm going to stop and we'll move into common ground here.
Yeah. Well, I have to make one quick comment. I mean, it's sort of a comment, sort of an observation, and I admit I'm a noob as the sort of the geek in me wants to say, about all the areas where you're an expert, Wig. But it just struck me that, it really would be interesting if at some point in the future, and I'm not saying it's necessary, I'm not saying it would be necessarily even really useful, but it would be interesting if injury to transit workers or injury to passengers could actually somehow be expanded in a meaningful way to those factors like pollution, particulate emissions, noise. Um, I can't think right now how
Well,
that would work, but it would be
I'm sure
interesting as hell.
I'm sure that noise is actually taken care of, and
Oh,
that the workers are supposed to wear ear protection when they're in high noise areas. That said, the health impacts on people who live close to these things in some are, at least two orders of magnitude greater than the health effects to the workers, with the exception of noise. Anybody on a airport tarmac without headphones is going to lose their hearing, and they're going to have a lot of pain. And that's at this point not medically treatable, although it may be in the future, because it's really all ion channels and G protein coupled receptors, exactly the kind of thing that Novo Nordisk is working on. Those medications that are helping with obesity, similar, those are ion channel medications. It's about a third of all pharma now. It's kind of exploded in the last 10 years. And that will be the area where this stuff shows up if there are medical solutions.
hmm. Very good. Go ahead, Len.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
Were you going to say something else, Stefan?
Oh, no, I was just going to encourage Sam to continue. I mean, I could
Yeah,
click around and try to see things that are interesting. I apologize that I hadn't seen this before. I feel like I've known about it, and I haven't been to this dashboard before, so I'm sorry. I'm
no,
approaching this
Stefan,
for the
don't
first
don't be
time.
sorry. I think admittedly the agency could do a much better job of um, I guess uh marketing or letting people know that this resource exists. But so no. But I noticed that you were clicking around on transit worker uh, outcomes. And it's kind of a similar topic to Wig's question about the
Yeah,
safety
that's
of
why I'd
transit
gone there.
workers and
Exactly right. Yep.
aviation workers. If you click on the transit worker assault tab, um, I don't know how if this has been a topic of your committee in the past, but
It
look
has.
look at the number
Absolutely.
of transit worker assaults. I think the average person would never think that these would be so high. If you
Hmm.
ask them to guess how many MBTA bus drivers um, were a subject of an assault, and that of course these figures here in blue, that's actual performance, and these are 3-year averages from 2021 to 2023. That's what it says there in the fine print. So basically, between 2021 and 2023, there was an average of 239 on buses. Heavy rail and light rail, far less. They have, less involvement with the public. Naturally, a bus driver, right? Everybody has to walk by the bus driver on the green
Yeah,
line. Some people have to walk by the operator on on the red line, the orange line, not so much. Um,
right.
but yeah, I think that's, I don't know if this is something you focus on or have in the past, but
Yeah,
it is
and
striking when you see it for the first time.
to
Yep.
this point, I always used to be struck on the buses by what good judgment some of the drivers have with regard to the personalities that get on the bus. I mean, that helps a lot. Is there specific training for this, or periodic updates, or how is this managed?
Imagine there is. I could take a look in the transit safety plan that the MBTA releases every few years. But one thing I will also note is that while these numbers might look striking, I don't know how these fare in relation to, say, like other transit agencies nationwide, right? I'm not saying that, wow, there's a lot of assaults. The MBTA is doing a bad job. I don't know if that's the answer.
Well, I mean, I know we could compare ourselves to others, but then we should just have our goal, and we've been aware about, assault, especially to bus drivers. In fact, that's why, the bus driver, um, seats, have changed, and then now they have, barriers, so that came out of the big increase in, violence against bus drivers. Way before the pandemic, I think we hearing about this, probably about 10 years ago.
Oh
So
yeah.
yes, it's been an issue. It's nationwide. So yeah, we're not surprised. In fact, we yeah, I would say any decrease in the general environment that we're in, will be impressive just in of itself, because it just seems like, I don't know what the causes are, but people are just more aggressive these days, and I don't want to say it's a generational thing, because I don't know if it is, but it just seems like um, younger people are just less restrained, but so yeah, it's not a
Yeah.
surprise. Uh,
I will note, and Len probably heard this at some point, not sure if this is something you picked up on in the presentation about a month ago. Just mentioning Len because I know he was there. But in terms of transit worker assault and transit worker injury related stats, the other two transit agencies on here, one of them, the Metro West RTA. So you'll notice that the MBTA's transit worker related targets are basically a few percent better for each of these, with the exception of fatalities, that there's a zero tolerance for that. They're a few percent better than past performance, right? The thought being that MBTA is aiming to do a few percent better each year and drive these numbers down. Metro West actually set targets that are much more conservative than actual figures, and the reason for that was that they're actually they have a particular focus this year in a policy of wanting transit workers to feel safe to report these type of things. So actually, well, you might say, wow, why are, if there were no reportable incidents last year in 2024, they reported data on a different scale. MBTA did 2021 and 2023. They gave us 2024 data. Anyways, you might say, wow, if there were no assaults last year, why would they set a target of 5 for next year? That's kind of the thinking, is that they want to convey to their employees that they should feel safe and feel right to report these type of things.
right. Yeah. And
Wow.
I don't recall if I asked, or if I just wanted to ask, because I asked something along the lines of, what was the reason for the their hesitancy to report the incidents. Do you have a sense of that, Sam?
I don't
What?
know. It might just be like any kind of violent act. People just for whatever reason might feel some sort of intimidation, or something like that.
Uh,
I don't know
yeah, I
how
know that
else
some
to
people.
speculate on it, but
Right. I know that sometimes people just don't want, to have the other person, even though they've been victimized, they don't want the other person to be, and I use this word loosely, victimized by the justice system. So they actually have, sympathy for the other person in anticipation of what would happen if they call the police. I deal with that sometimes. In my role in Arlington, people will say, something happened, and you ask them, like, why? Well, did you call the police? It's like, no, because I didn't want to get the other person in trouble. And so it's like, well, but if you don't report it, then we don't know that we have a problem. And they feel like, well, there's no way they can report it and say, all I want to do is report this. I don't want you to take further action, because that's just not how the system works. And so they don't report. And I get that. And also, I think, I blame, for lack of a better word, younger folks, so for some of the violence, But I think another source, is perhaps people who are mentally ill, and then if you get assaulted by someone who's mentally ill, I think people are even more hesitant to call the police because now they kind of feel like this person's already been victimized, by society, and that they're not getting the treatment that they need. They've now struck out, and now am I going to, make their situation even worse? So and I'll just add, and I know this doesn't relate to assaults, but when I get these surveys, but do you feel safe on the team? I don't. I give it a less than I highest score because it's there's sometimes I get on a train, and then I'll see a lot of people who are homeless, and I've seen situations where the homeless folks will just kind of get out of control with themselves, and it's easy for you to end up as collateral damage, in the fight between some other people. So I have to sadly admit, that I just feel uncomfortable sometimes on the T. Like in the red line, particularly, is where I experience this. Well, that's all I'm riding these days when I ride the T, and I didn't feel that way, 10 years ago. And it might have been 10 years ago. I might feel unsafe, maybe late, on a weekend night, when people have had too much to drink, and you're like, oh, these people out of control. But now it's like it's pretty frequent that, I can get on a red line train, and it's like, oh, I hope this
Yeah.
doesn't go south. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Lon.
Yeah.
I've got one more maybe like metric I want to call
Sure.
attention to, and then I'll take whatever
Please.
questions you
Yeah.
guys have for,
Sure.
until the time that you've allotted.
Sure.
The system reliability tab, Stefan, if you want to click on that one. What this measure is, this is an interesting one for you, right? Fatalities, serious injuries, that's pretty straightforward stuff. But what system reliability is, this is captured under the transit safety set of measures that's required by FDA and the feds for us to measure. What system reliability is a measure of basically how far each agency's mode of service goes on average without a breakdown. So what you see here is you see all these numbers in the thousands for the four modes listed here. And what that is an average measure of the mean miles between major mechanical failures. And that's an interesting one, right? Because that's one that it while there might be a everybody's perceived experience is different at times on the T. This is sort of the best way probably that the T can summarize how they're doing at getting people where they need to go on average, right? It's a measure of reliability. So you'll see that the targets, for example, for heavy rail for this year are 49,000 miles. That means that for every 49,000 miles traveled by the red, orange, or blue lines, for every 49,000 miles, there's what's considered a major mechanical failure.
How is it that the Oh, hold on. Let me think out my question first. I just realized it was not a fully baked question. Hold on. So obviously, longer bars are better because it's
Yes.
more mileage before a failure. Do we know if for example, heavy rail increase, is that anticipating all of the accelerated track work that was done in calendar year 2024, all of that aggressive work? I mean, because just for example, from 2023, that's a target that's notably lower than the previous year, but yet we've jumped up for the target. Now, admittedly, there's no performance data yet, but do you have any sense of how the targets might reflect actual operational and capital projects?
Yeah, so the best indicator is probably vehicles themselves. right? So
Oh,
the work
okay.
on the work on the slow zones is not that's not necessarily a factor here, right? The
Got it.
trains
Because
might
it's
have been going
vehicle. Oh,
slower, but it
right.
doesn't mean that this isn't necessarily a measure of like on-time performance. It's a measure of how far does how far does each mode go on average
Sorry.
in between what they call failures.
Got it.
Um,
I've got it. Of course. And because the vast majority of
and
failures are coming from the vehicle because it's
mhm.
what's moving.
and
Right, 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 right.
right
Thank you for clearing that up.
and so with like you noted how between 2022 and 23 there was a reduction in those targets between 23 and 24, right? You had a lot of orange line and red line cars come online.
Exactly.
The hope is reliability would increase in this area. So it's really mostly a reflection um, of the vehicles, but also the tracks themselves. But the vehicles.
Got it. Got it. So this is actually very enlightening, even for the years where there's no performance data yet, because it's giving us a snapshot of what the agency believes is achievable. And in the previous years, well, I mean, for at least 2023, what
And
wasn't achievable. I mean, so that's, yeah.
yeah, and conversely, you see on the paratransit column there, right? You
Yeah.
see there was a big drop off between 23 and 24. Again, um, paratransit vehicles are just like I'm trying to think what kind of car they are. They're mostly like Ford Edge or Ford Fusion vehicles, right? They're just regular
Yeah.
cars. Um, there's a lot of cars that after the pandemic, there are a lot of cars, MBTA cars that were left in service that even though they're called they're past what's called their useful life benchmark, meaning
Yep.
they turned a certain age, but because of the pandemic, because there was less driving, MBTA put fewer miles on these cars, so they were able to leave them in service because they still work. Um, but probably due to that, the paratransit targets have become more conservative over the past couple of years.
That makes sense because the return to service or the return of riders to use the service if the fleet is older. Yeah, I like that. Len, go ahead. Your hand's up, please.
Thank you. Were you done? Because I don't want to interrupt you.
No, no, no.
So I wasn't saying I need to jump in. I was just
That was more than I
okay.
meant to for that particular topic. So yeah,
I was
please, all
just
yours.
trying to get myself cute. Okay, fine. Thank you. Well, first off, Sam, I mean, the dashboard is just really beautiful. I mean, it looks great. I mean, it's just, it just has a nice feel to it. It's easy to navigate, and so to whoever put it together, did a great job. So now on if you go to the serious injury rate,
Mhm.
I know that what's on the site, is what's required, and I don't know to what extent, you want to, you feel it's appropriate to put additional information, but the rate is calculated by per million revenue miles, and in order to determine the number of revenue miles, that have been logged, you have to do the calculation yourself, and so I think it'd be interesting, to see what the number of revenue miles are. I mean, just to kind of see, like, well, maybe is there some kind of correlation between, the increase and decrease in revenue miles, and incidents. I know that this calculation is meant to kind of standardize, the metric, but it'd be interesting, to maybe say, well, let's say if we had like a big increase in revenue miles over a period, do we would we also get an increase in serious injury, and I know the goal is to kind of reduce the serious injury. And I'm getting a little twisted in what I'm saying now, but maybe you get the sense of what I'm getting at by asking if it would be easy for us to just get the revenue miles
Yeah,
included. Uh,
that's an interesting point. I'm going to take note of your question, especially about seeing if there's any patterns, right? Maybe there's some literature out there from other transit agencies or other NPOs about maybe there's a certain magic number that once you've hit certain number of vehicle revenue miles, then things go wrong, or I'm just
Yeah, or maybe,
yeah, you
right.
get the point.
Yeah, right. And maybe it's the
But
opposite way, I mean, it's like maybe when you start operating over a larger area, or you get more vehicles, or maybe your revenue miles is related to the number of drivers you have. Then it gets safer. I'm just trying to see, like, and so you go any number of ways, but it kind of hinges on the ability to easily ascertain what that denominator is. And like I said, you can calculate it on your own. There's enough data here for you to calculate how many revenue miles, like on the heavy rail, there is in any given year. But once again, the more information you ask for on any given page, then the more crowded, for lack of a better word, that page becomes. And at some point it reaches a threshold for people. It's like, it's just too much. You're giving me too many things. I don't know what to do.
yeah, but the short answer is, Len, is that the MBTA has that data.
Yeah.
They're required to report it to NTD, the National
Yeah.
Transit Database,
Right.
For each mode on an
Right.
annual basis.
Right.
And they obviously made these calculations. I will admit they made the calculations, not us.
Right.
We took them from them. So
Right.
while the denominator is not on this screen, the MBTA does. They obviously have that, and they report it
Right.
to NTD.
Right. And I was just about to say, and when I go to the NTD, I haven't been there much. I'm like there my third time, and there's just so much there, that I'm having a difficult time, navigating. But that's just user inexperience. I don't blame it, on the provider information, because I want it all, but it just takes some time to figure out how to get there. And I'll say one more thing, Wig, before I let it go, and that is, so with all, like, for instance, serious injuries, when I went there last time, I was able to get data, on maybe it was some other events, but you get data on what happened, in those events. There's like additional information, and I think that's just so valuable. I was like really happy to see it, and it was fairly detailed. And since this is really a question for the team, but I'm just going to ask you in case you've had conversations. Do you know to what extent, there is analysis done, of the factors that go into causing the various accidents? I'm sure that we do, but I was just wondering how maybe it's done, how systematically it's done.
I got to be honest. I'm sure that's probably buried in the MBTA's transit safety plan somewhere. I just had the link to that somewhere. I'm going to put the link to that as well.
Okay.
I think that's important to have.
Yeah, we'll check that out.
Gosh, where is it?
Well, I can look it up. So it's MBTA safety plan.
MBTA transit
Safety plan.
plan. I know in the past we've posted it on the MPO's site. Gosh,
We can look it up as long as we know the name of it. So I think I see it. MBTA publishes 3-year safety improvement plan.
Yes.
Yes. Posted on April 3rd. 2023. Yeah. If it's 3 years, that would probably be the most recent one.
Yes.
So read the plan at mbta.com/safety.plan.
Yes.
Okay,
I don't want to hold up Wig. I know we're getting close to time.
Fine, actually.
Yeah, I found it.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I used to look at the national reports, but I haven't done that in a long time. And this is the kind of thing we're looking at, say, the top 12 transit entities in the country. If there's a high quality write-up of that, could be pretty informative. Years ago, I used to do that, but I haven't done it in a long time. You hear about the really dramatic ones on the news, but you don't really, you have to go look for the national reports to get the systematic information. And that's probably worth us doing. It might be worth us having a whole meeting on that, having somebody who can go over the national information pool, and how often it comes out and all that stuff. Stefan, I think you would enjoy looking at that if you haven't. You may have already looked at it, but
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, thanks for pointing this out about this safety plan, because I mean, if it's every 3 years, man, then I suspect the next one, since this one's in 2023, the 2026 one is under development, so we can reach out and find out, what's going on with it, and I'm sure it'll probably come up there's a safety group, under a safety subgroup being under the board of directors, so keep an eye out for that. So yeah, okay. And we can read this 2023 one. I mean, if not for our April operations meeting, I mean, maybe the May operations meeting. Cool.
Yep. I've already gone through a bit of this, and it's invaluable, what I'm trying to say. Absolutely invaluable.
And these days, I mean, there's technology that can help us like read through, um, narratives, especially if they're detailed narratives about what's caused something, and help us ascertain, summarize it at least, even if it doesn't do the analysis, it can like give us good summaries, of what's there, and then it's up to us to try to discern patterns, be they simply correlations or if we can make some causation hypotheses. So nice.
I think
Yeah,
I've just got.
I just put that in the chat. Stefan, go
Yep.
ahead.
I think for me, just one last thing before we let you disappear back to your family, because we're almost up at 6 o'clock. Do you have let me make sure I formulate this again correctly. I guess I think it's more a question of just from the other MPOs. I mean, do you have any sense from like what you may have colleagues in other MPOs, like either other RTAs? Are they doing similar types of presentation? I mean, this is kind of a meta question about like how are the other RTAs presenting the data out to their customers, their board of directors, whatever. I mean, the other MPOs, um, are they doing a similar kind of slice and dice and reporting to what the Boston MPO and CTPS is doing?
They are, because they're required to do it annually.
Yep.
But MPOs are a funny thing, right? There's a whole different range of them, and it kind of
Right.
depends on what your metro area is like, right? So if you take, for example, like say the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, right? If you take their MPO, for example, they probably I believe they only have to deal with one transit agency, right? And it's fairly
Mhm.
small. Take something like someone who we kind of look to for best practices a lot, which is Philadelphia's MPO, the Delaware
Yeah.
Valley Regional Planning Commission.
Yeah.
They have a whole range of transit agencies within their MPO area. San Francisco, so many. Can't remember what the name of that one's called, but so yeah, it's they're all unique, but yes, in short, we're all required to do this.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
required to do it, but I mean, it seems like it strikes me that CTPS Boston MPO are doing it better and presenting better than what I would imagine a smaller MPO or RTA would be doing. I mean, I guess I'm not trying to say it's us against them. I mean, you're right. It's required. The data has to get put out. I I don't know. I guess I'd be making
Stefan,
more of an observation than a comment, so
you
disregard
really
that.
need to. I think it's probably obvious from this conversation you've just been having, but
Hmm.
one thing is looking at the smaller entities within Massachusetts.
Hmm.
That's they're going to have different characteristics
Yes.
because of scale. Worcester's interesting and some of the others, and we've looked at some of those before. But the real peer groups are the ones that are from metropolitan areas that are somewhat similar in scale to us across
Of
the
course.
US.
Right.
Yeah,
Agreed.
yeah, I agree with Woody on that. So can I ask one last question?
Yep, all yours, Len.
So always this has to be the last question. It's up to Sam, really. So on the transit worker injury rate, and I may have mentioned this to you, Sam. We calculate that one by revenue vehicle miles,
By
also.
VRMs as well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
1 million is kind of just like a standard
yeah,
rate of
yeah.
measurement that's provided by the FTA.
Yeah,
Yep.
I understand. And I'm just with this one, I kind of feel that that's an odd metric to use. And because for me, I would be kind of more interested in the percent of transit workers that are injured, because I get the impression that this one is more about those who are maybe working on the rails. It's not driver assault. And so I kind of feel that this is not so much me for accidents while on the road. As much as it may be, accidents while working, in a particular facility
Mm,
or on a particular, piece of the property. Do you
completely
have?
agree.
Yeah,
I
okay,
can I completely agree. Maybe it's not the best denominator, but it is one that we're required to report on, perhaps percentage of employees or hours worked or something like that could be better.
right.
Maybe that's something you all can pass along to to the board of directors or uh, other interested committees. But yeah, that's a good point.
Right. So the question is so we as in the MPO are only going to put up what is federally required, right? And that's fine if the answer is yes. And if we want more, then that would have to come from the MBTA and have to be done on its website, right?
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
But
All
also, I
right.
mean, this being the first year that we're dealing with these measures, right? Probably best to um, keep it simple. But yeah, in
Yeah.
future years, that certainly is, a possibility.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to make sure to know where to make the ask. So certainly don't want to create more work than staff can handle at the MPO, but also don't want to put you in a position where you're trying to provide more than you should, and the risks that come along with that. So if the onus, for lack of a better word, should be on the MBTA, then we can certainly reach out to MBTA staff. To explore this more. So that's it. Thank you.
Yeah. Wait,
Thank,
any more
thank you
questions,
all for
Wade?
having me. I really appreciated your questions and like I said, I hope that the links are helpful
Absolutely.
for
Yeah.
when you're looking for, say, future topic discussions or however you want to use the information. Um, hope it's
Well,
helpful.
yeah, thanks
Yeah.
for making the time.
Thank you so much, Sam.
Yeah, take care. Look forward to more of your reports.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks again. Wow. Hmm. Once again, I find myself just ending that segment with a lot of beard stroking and so,
Right,
hmm.
right. Well, yeah, yeah. So, hey, I'm not quite sure. So one of the reasons Sam is here, was here tonight, is because the MPO is reorging, the advisory council. And so right now we aren't having any meetings. And so it's not really clear. What is going to emerge. It's going to be different than the previous one because they
Uh,
are trying to get they're going out and kind of recruiting organizations, and also they're going to give the organizations a stipend. They did some research, on other MPOs, and so that was the inspiration behind the reorganization. So since November of last year, the advisory council hasn't been meeting. So a lot of times, what I would do is if there was an interesting presentation that I wanted to dive into more at a board meeting, I would just ask the presenter to come to advisory council meeting where we could spend more time, discussing it with them because, as Wig knows, I mean, the board meetings are already pretty long. They have stacked agendas, meaning that rarely has fewer than 10 items on them, and it is rare for a meeting to be less than 2 hours, and a lot of them, or over 2 hours. And when they start at 10 o'clock, when you get to 12 o'clock, you're not inclined to ask, a lot of questions because people are tired and they want lunch. uh,
Okay. At least I'm glad you meant AM.
of course I
Okay.
did. Was there ever any confusion?
For a split second, just for a
Okay.
split second, I was thinking,
Okay. All
who's
right.
starting a meeting at 10 p.m.? No, 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 no. I got
Yeah.
over that pretty quickly.
Okay. Good. Like,
Stefan was
if I
thinking,
contextualize that,
Woo.
I mean, like, anyways,
yeah,
Wig.
Stefan was thinking back to his disco days in Manhattan, I think.
Yes. 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 Yes, indeed. That's a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, that guy in that photo that we see, for his avatar. I mean,
which
that's a
which
disco
photo
guy.
do you mean?
That's he's like, he looks so clean cut. It's like, oh, I would never, go to Studio 54 and participate in such decadent behavior.
No, of course not. Ah, oh, that's good.
All right.
All
So
right.
so
Oh,
tell us about South Coast Rail.
oh, should we wanna do that now?
Sure, that'd be great. A few minutes.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. Uh, how much do you already know? Because I don't want to bore you or
Compared to you, nothing.
okay.
Well, we just
Um,
want to know about yesterday, right?
sure, I
What
keep
was it
us focused
like?
on yesterday, yeah.
Uh,
Alrighty. Well, the event was held at the East Taunton station, which made a lot of sense because logistically it allowed people to come down from Boston, leave South Station, and get to the event, checking out a little bit of the new route, which is really just Middleborough, new station at Middleborough, where things begin to go pretty much east-west into the new East Taunton station. So a great choice because it it didn't force anybody to be driving if one had to all the way down to Fall River, all the way down to New Bedford, which would be like probably another 30% on top of the trip time for anybody coming out of Boston not by rail. Probably actually would have been another 30%, 40, 50% for anybody who did go down by rail. So again, the selection of East Taunton, um, a really great decision. The setup was such that there was a huge tent. And when I say huge, I mean it was the size of a football field, um, and a dais set up to accommodate. Oh, sorry, I meant to mute that, but you can see how big this is. All just a temporary
Wow.
rented tent space, um, media platform with, I mean, everybody who I could recognize as a video media outlet was back there. Um, I asked somebody what they thought was the attendance there, and they thought it was close to 1,000 people. I was thinking more like 500 to 700, but I could be wrong. The well, let me start off. This was how the day began. Not literally the beginning of the day, but this is my own app showing, hey, Fall River New Bedford line inbound to East Taunton. So I'm very happy to be able to show that my own app didn't need any special recoding. Um, it just picked up the destination names right off of the data feed. Um, the turnout was extraordinary, including lots and lots of people from Keolis and MBTA crews. I was really happy to see that they extended the invite out to a lot of people who were, I don't know if you can see her vest. Keolis Mechanical. That having a groundbreaking extended to or a ribbon cutting ceremony celebration.
Yeah.
It wasn't
Good.
just for politicians and lots of glad handing amongst
Yeah.
executives. There was, for lack of a better term, rank and file. There were workers there
Yeah.
being thanked. Really great. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you'd notice, just by complete coincidence, that's Brian Kane of the MBTA Advisory Board. He was sitting one row ahead of me and a couple seats to one side, so I just had a couple chats with him. Um, this was the actual ribbon cutting, and there's everybody who was anybody at the state level was there. I've got a better picture of everybody up on the dais, so I don't want to belabor people too much with the slideshow. Tom McGee, the chair of the MBTA board, is there, along with Phil Eng, obviously the governor, lieutenant governor, and Monica, secretary of transportation. Um, Very good, uh, I thought, to the point speeches, really reflecting the value proposition, what the impact is expected to be, what the hopes are for the ridership. Um, do you gents happen to remember? Oh my God, her name is Fox is her last name. Is it
Hmm.
Jean Fox?
Gloria, different person.
I think
No,
it's.
I don't remember. Anyways,
Anyway, she was I believe, the primary project manager for South Coast Rail. She came to a couple of different rock meetings back in the day.
Yeah.
Uh, she vaguely recognized me, and when I identified herself and I thanked her, she was very happy that I came forward um,
what's her role again? Or
she, I
what was her
believe,
role?
was the primary um like customer outreach, like community outreach, community liaison for the project.
Okay.
I mean,
Like a
I remember Christina Egan kind of shepherding the alternate strategies for this, whether it was
yeah,
going to be quick and bypass towns or whether it was going to be, more focused on integration with appropriate land uses within the towns.
yep.
There were some pretty large environmental um, and transportation documents when she was here. She left for Maine a long time ago.
Oh,
She used to be. Did she used to be at? Was it T for Mass or was she? She was at Mass Transportation Massachusetts, right? I think
I don't remember when I
Egan,
mostly
yeah,
remember her from her formal role leading the project
yeah. I think
when it
she.
was just EIRs. It was basically the early EIRs.
Oh,
And anyway,
yeah, I remember now. She was really good. She was really nice.
she's
Um,
very smart.
yeah.
Her dad was quite a scientist as well.
hmm. Oh, and it is Gene Fox, by the way. Yes, JeanFox, and project manager, South Coast Rail. And there's another reference to her as being the spokeswoman as well, reported by another agency. But um, let me show you very quickly some of the actual infrastructure highlights. And I'm going to kind of work my way backwards from most interesting to very quickly, but least interesting, but very quickly. This, and I'm going to let this video run here. This is showing from the parking lot where the event venue was, obviously. This is just a big pan showing from the parking lot how you can access one of the platforms with this enclosed walkway that sweeps up. I thought this was quite striking.
Yeah,
I'll pause there for a moment.
yeah,
I've got a still shot as well. Um, I believe this is pretty typical for station design these days. This is very reminiscent to me of like the Littleton 495 station that was built about 12 years ago. Uh, the center platform canopies. There is some enclosed areas around the elevators. I believe I saw that the enclosed areas are heated. Um,
That's
and
good.
that's just a walkway up and over.
That's good.
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, it's an interesting setup specifically because of the way, oh, this is a panorama, but
Oh,
well, I know it. Disregard this because it's a panorama shot, so it looks like it's curved, but it's not really. It's just the way the camera does the
yeah.
panorama. But um, it's interesting that because of the way there's a freight connection, there's a freight turnout to a freight customer in the back here. Um, and because of other freight requirements, there's a very interesting sort of I think it's called a shoe fly. These two tracks that are on the left, or rather, I should say the one that's in the middle here and the one that's on the far left are the ones that actually go into the station and go up to the platforms. And this other track on the far right is dedicated to the freight connection, the freight line that goes up to more of the Taunton Center and connects to other freight routes that are, I believe, all coming out of Framingham, I believe, is the center point, Ayer, Framingham. But um, this shot is a little blurry because it's way in the background, but you can see here how this track on the right stops at a bunter because this is Route 24 going over the tracks. As long as Route 24 has existed, there's only been one track going through because the railroad had abandoned the second track that long ago. So there is a current big project to rebuild this bridge and several others in the Route 24 corridor. And that is going to allow this second track to connect. So it will be double tracked. It's just for right now. And you can actually almost see it in the background. There's another switch on the far side. So it's literally just this single track stretch for about maybe 100 yards to get underneath Route 24. But that project is going full bore, and I don't remember what the time frame is, but oh, and just for the heck of it, oh, hang on, let me. You probably can't hear the audio unless I do. I'll just do that, and then you should be able to hear. Yep. I mean, it's a train going by, so I don't know why I'm making the point, but hey, it's the first day of service where there hasn't been passenger service in 67 years, so there we have it. That was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
You took the day off for this, didn't you?
I did, yes, I did.
Wow, good for you.
Now, I'll wrap this up with a couple more interesting points. There was some kind of hardware on this gantry overhead that I'd never seen before, and I realized this is actually a freight defect detector system. These are actually optical sensors. There's one that goes from right to left, and there's one that goes from the outside where the freight should be. I don't know if you can see down below a little eye here. So, and I looked this up. There's basically a light beam that's going from this ground mounted unit up to this. Either I can't tell which is the sensor, which is the light, but if anything from a freight car is beyond where it should be, it will trip one of these light beams, either if it's too high, if it's too far to the side. And so, from what I read just in the last 24 hours, this is the state of the art for detecting stuff has come loose off of your freight car to alert people about it.
What do they do about big birds?
Good question. I don't know. And that even goes to these triangular bits that are poking up
Yeah.
are dragging equipment detectors. And the idea is that, I don't know if you can tell, there's a rotary mechanism here. So if something goes by that knocks one of those over, that sends a signal. And there's one on outside of the track on either side and one in the middle. And again, I looked it up, and that is state of the art for detecting. There they are. That's a better picture of it. It's a dragging equipment detector in case something comes loose, and this is placed here, as far as I can tell, because it's a very active freight corridor on that far side, and that's pretty much it. So I'll stop there. Can I answer any questions?
Oh no, I mean, I didn't know the freight issue was such a big deal that they needed to put in those kind of detectors. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'd heard about dragging detectors before, but I'd never actually seen one up close. I mean, it's so elegant and simple. It's just, you saw it. It's just a piece of triangular metal, and if it goes one way or the other, it sends a signal. Hey, something just hit me. And the optical sensors, I mean, brilliant.
So, how did you find out about the widening? I mean, the bridge replacement that will allow for double tracking?
Oh man, that's a good question. How I found out, it's been
Or
such a
when?
long time.
Oh, it's been a long time. Okay, fine.
I know I've talked with a bunch of people about it. I know that well, heck, actually,
That's fine, no problem. It wasn't something that you heard about yesterday. Is essentially
no,
what you.
no. It goes much further back than that.
Right.
I believe, honestly, I forget who it was, but it was. I can actually show you.
Problem.
No, it's a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I'm looking right at it here, assuming that you can see this. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I pivot this a little bit, and I'm sorry, I meant to be on. I meant to be on Google Earth, not Google Maps, but here I can show you this. This is actually it's kind of cool. This street view on one side shows where the track stops right up against the bridge that's, well, ancient. But what's kind of cool is on the other side of the highway, they've already begun the work, and you can see all of the construction, all the reinforcing, digging. You can see where the new edge of the highway is going to be, because that's a brand new retaining wall barrier off pretty far off to the side. And what's kind of cool about this view is you can actually see the old bridge abutments here. This one narrow span right here. It's only one train car width right there. And if you go over, there's the other track. And I believe I actually could see when I was there. I believe when I actually drove over, I could believe this, because this is a street view. This is like from, actually, it says right here, this is from July 2024. So they're well past this now. And I believe I could clearly see that the new bridge is indeed wide enough for the two tracks. But I mean, I thought this is just an amazing view. I mean, you can see the old bridge, and like they've been digging away the dirt right up to the abutments for the old Route 24 highway bridge. And then, like I said, there's the track in the background, waiting to get hooked up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's just me being a bit of a engineering geek.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I mean, once you get past this point, I guess, I mean, you have easy access to the other track, and you just need to probably just put in new track.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely, yeah. And somebody told me that they wouldn't have done the second track as far, like it's right up to the bridge on both sides. You know, it's just when you see it, and maybe my picture didn't do it justice, but so more about the actual event. Really well planned out. They had a ton of staffers handing out drinks and food and escorting people to the porta johns if they needed it, and um, I do have, and I'm gonna say this on the record, thanks to Darren McAuliffe, a gift box of goodies to share with members of this committee. At some point, I don't know when. I'm not sure how I would get these things to you without putting them in the mail. But I don't even spoil the surprise. But it's a whole box full of South Coast Rail grand opening, March 24, 2025 goodies. Thank you, Darren McAuliffe, who personally made sure that I took these home to share with everybody on the committee.
oh, thank you, Darren. Well, maybe we can just do a meeting downtown. I don't mean like a formal meeting like this, although we could,
Oh yeah, we could just meet up. We could
yeah,
have dinner or lunch or something. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, especially once weather gets nice, me because I'm still pretty much just eating outdoors.
Sure.
I'll tell you, every time I'm thinking maybe I can relax, I'll hear someone else has gotten COVID, and it's like, damn, it's still around.
Oh man.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe this summer. I mean, I'll feel more comfortable indoors. But
I understand that.
at the same time, it's nice outdoors. But
Yeah.
but yeah, I would say if we can't get together before the end of June, then I will make it a point of meeting you someplace in town whenever you come to town. Do you still come to the Harvard to work all these days?
Once in a blue moon, but very,
All right,
very rarely.
all right. Well, maybe in that blue moon I could just meet you.
Oh yeah.
Because
If worst comes to worst, yeah.
you come to
Exactly.
Cambridge, right?
Sorry, say again.
You come to Cambridge when you come to work in person, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. And
Okay, yeah.
I've also got medical appointments and other things. I mean, yeah, I'm coming into town at least once or twice a month.
All right, all right.
Yep.
That can be one of those.
But other quick notes about the event. The overflow parking had to be used because, this was again very well planned out. The tent and the event, the venue space took up probably a third of the parking lot.
Yeah.
I really can't do it. You saw in my picture
Yeah.
how big was it. It had to have been a football field at least, just the inside footprint of that tent. And then there was all ancillary stuff, for catering and for air conditioning, HVAC equipment, whatever, just in case. They, I'm going to assume, contracted with the RTA of the area. I think it's GATRA. Don't quote me on that. The RTA in that region was running 100% electrical, rechargeable shuttle buses from the overflow parking back into the lot. And there was a shuttle bus. It must have been every 3 or 4 minutes, all the whole time.
Well, it's nice it was a big deal for that locality.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it doesn't happen that often in some of these towns. So
Yeah, and I also got the impression there was a little bit of a showcase of the commitment to transit-oriented development as well, because the event was opened. Well, I have to admit, Darren ran the show as far as being the
Yeah,
MC, but the
yeah,
first official speaker was the mayor of Taunton,
yeah,
and she um, cited TOD and the long
yeah,
term commitment to
yep,
getting cars off of roads,
yep,
as did the governor, Lieutenant Governor
yep,
Phil Eng, Monica
yep,
Tibbetts not. I mean, they all in one way or another referenced
yep.
the more people on rails, the less people on roads, and it's good for everybody,
Yeah.
which I personally fully support. I
Yeah.
agree
No,
with that.
no, I do too. Yeah.
Guys, I have a 6:30 meeting. I'm sorry.
That's
That's
fine.
okay. Was there
Yeah.
anything else on the other topics before you jump off, Wig, that you
No,
wanted to bring up? If I had known you were going at 6:30, I would have cut it short on the.
no, it's fine. It was great that you put so much energy into this and
Okay.
documenting
Well,
it.
well, for what it's worth, these are the subcommittee notes. We'll just have them up on the screen, and just that way they'll be into the public record for the subcommittee. I know you weren't able to join us at the subcommittee, but um, nothing. I don't think that was really groundbreaking during the subcommittee. But again, if you want to look at the YouTube recording later, you can see these notes that I've got put up there. So
Yeah.
we'll let you go.
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
well, Wig, and
Guys,
thank you.
All right. Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you.
After this, I will send an email to. You can go wait. I'll send an email to Wolfgang. And saying, hey, can you come to the our meeting in April, the MCOP meeting in April?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
subcommittee. Yep, that would be
Yeah.
great.
Jonathan, he emphasized that he wants to talk with him. So I'm not. I know I can playfully add Jonathan's name. Or inject Jonathan's name into
Hmm.
the email. But this will give him
Sure.
2 weeks. So yeah. Another question about the event. Were there
Yep.
any folks from previous administrations there? As in the Weld or what's his name? What's the most
Weld,
recent?
Salucci, um,
The most
Jane
recent,
Swift.
the most recent public governor,
Oh, you mean Charlie Baker?
Baker. Yeah,
Most
were any
recently.
people? Yeah,
Uh, if there were, then I don't believe any attention was given to them in a formal sense.
right, right,
No one was named,
right.
but absolutely referenced. Yes,
Yeah,
Governor Healy and I think one other speaker did quite. I believe the term is magnanimously thank the previous administrations
right,
and previous workers at the T and Keolis and other subcontract. There was a
right,
very definite thank you to all the people who have worked on this, including previous political administrations. Yes.
yeah. Because it was quite the effort to get this thing. And
Yep.
I hope it works out. Yeah, I hope the ridership materializes. And if it doesn't, then I it'll be interesting to see what the reasons are. Is it that people just aren't commuting as much? Because I hope if people don't utilize this because they're just not commuting as much, as opposed to we built this thing and it didn't meet the needs of people who are still commuting into Boston by vehicle. And one thing I think is incumbent upon us to do, because AVs are coming, autonomous are coming, and we need to develop policies that will still encourage people to use transit. And so I'm all for autonomous because I think that's the way we're going to get the roadway fatalities down. You know,
Yes.
Because I've said this a zillion times. As with planes, people kill each other on the roadways at the rate of 100 a day. But we couldn't have a plane load of people falling out of the sky, once a day. And so there's just something about being in the sky, in a tube. That says to people we can't do this. And also, it would be a matter of 100 people all at once. But the deal is that we're just not going to be able to tolerate autonomous killing people. Even though us
Right.
humans are very good at it, and because of that, they're just going to be safer. And there'll be some hiccups, but I think we'll get there. But we still want to make sure that they're deployed in a way that doesn't lead to congestion, and also in a way that makes access to the transportation network more equitable.
Oh,
And so
absolutely.
my whole point is that I think still, transit will be a preferred way to move more people at once. And so we just need to come up with policies that will encourage that. So this is just to say that I hope we do what it takes to really try to usher ridership onto the commuter rail, especially if we do TOD near these stations. And then the TOD has to have a big affordable housing component to it,
Oh, exactly.
and not affordable because people can't live in Boston. It should be
Yep.
like, well, it's affordable because people who want to live in this area, get to live near transit as opposed to being pushed further away from transit and then have to use a car or a vehicle to do that last mile. Because it'd be really good if in order to get to the train stations, they had nice bike paths. But still more dense development, near those areas so they could walk.
Yep. Well, funny that you'd mention increasing ridership on public transit. I happened to be standing on the shuttle bus to get to the event, right with a couple of staff of the Keolis marketing department.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, the shuttle ride was pretty quick, and after we disembarked from the shuttle, it was basically pouring rain, and we all just ran inside. There wasn't a lot of time for
Right.
conversation, but they hinted that the Killis marketing department is going strong, and they're going to be targeting a lot on the South Coast area, as if there hadn't already been a lot of PR.
Right.
There's going to be a lot upcoming of campaigns to bring people down to Fall River, New Bedford, Taunton, Fall River, New Bedford, but also to get people from those areas to come back up. Not just for the sake of, hey, have a have a Saturday down here, but
Right.
try out the ride, see see if this might be a place where you want to live or have
Right.
your business.
Right.
I
Well,
don't want to put. I hope I'm not putting words in their mouth.
Right.
Our discussion was very,
Right.
very brief and not very deep, but
Right.
um,
Right.
I was encouraged.
Right. So let me ask you this. What do you think would be the demand? For people to go from like Fall River to the North Shore, like Gloucester. Meaning like, especially on weekends. Do you think like people want to go from down there? To have a beach day on the weekend. In the Gloucester area, or just like visit the Gloucester area. The reason I ask this is like, I'm kind of wondering, like, the further we reach out, in the commuter rail, it almost justifies and makes it more appealing to have the north-south rail link. But
Yes.
I still wonder about the actual utility of it. Like, would people really um, want to do that because they are missing the opportunities?
Hmm.
And or would we have to create the demand because it's not really there?
Yep. I am on the fence.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't thought much about the finer points of north-south rail since before the pandemic, and I have a couple of thoughts that the the viability of North South Rail Link had a lot to do with the central station as much as it simply being a connector. I don't know if you remember, the North South Rail Link originally was going to have, I think, 3 underground stations between North and South Station.
Yeah.
So it was going to be if you're going north, it would be South Station, underground station, underground station, underground station, North Station. And I think that cost estimate was just so out of control that I think the most recent proposal was for a single, I think it was simply called Central Station, and it was going to be, I remember it being very logically situated, pretty much like dead center between North Station and South Station, but only one station. But I think even that was before the pandemic.
Right.
And I could be wrong, but again, the impression I got was that a lot of the viability for the North-South Rail Link was due to the projected demand for boarding and disembarking at that central station, and not just from people who really wanted to get from, the Fairmont line to the Haverhill line.
All right. All right.
But again, that's my recollection. I could be very wrong on a lot of those points.
Right.
I still am. I still ponder whether using the Grand Junction would be viable. But there's so many grade crossings in Cambridge.
Right.
It would just never. I mean, the Grand Junction having like a supplemental, like a all electric kind of would just like ping pong between North Station and South Station. Yeah, but running full size trains with any kind of frequency over the Grand Junction through, across Mass Ave
Right.
behind MIT, I don't think so.
Yeah. Yeah. No, not here. All right. Yeah, just thinking because I know the North-South Rail Link is on still on some people's minds. And I feel that when we think about these projects being that won't be completed for like the better part of 10 or 20 years, we want to think about what kind of future do we want these projects to emerge into. And yeah, there I'd say we can't predict the future, but we can think about the future that we want to have and try to design projects that fit into that future, make it happen, and then deal with things that happen, and apply that to those goals, and so do we want to have the 15 minutes neighborhood, like the walk where everything you need, is within a 15-minute walk, or do we really want to have, things more centralized? Do we want, people going, commuting to work? Or do we really want them to be more remote? Or do we want hybrid? But if we do want hybrid, then do we want to have the demand, for getting, to the workplace be spread out over the day, or do we still want to drive everyone in, and I don't mean by vehicle, but push everyone in, at the same time, because that requires that you have more capacity for those crunch periods, than you do, for the times, and that's a bit inefficient. But what I always keep coming back to, though, is like we do have these big events that we want to bring people to, like baseball games, 4th of July, the St. Patrick's Day parade. So to a certain extent, we have to have the ability to increase capacity,
Right.
And how do we do that, in an efficient way,
Yeah, I might be biased, but boy, I hope that the craft proposal for the soccer stadium in Everett doesn't happen, because I don't think that neighborhood can sustain it. And you go 6 or 7 miles outside of Boston to where the Wonderland station is, and there's this, I think it's like 100-acre parcel where the Greyhound track used to be.
Right.
Blue line on one side, State Highway 1A, commuter rail.
Right.
And nobody's jumping on that.
Right. I wonder why. I mean, I think do they want it near Everett so that it's close to the casino or what?
I think it's partly to be closer to Boston so that the same water taxi that's serving the
Right,
casino could
right,
serve the shuttle.
right.
I've forgotten if it's year round, but I believe doesn't the casino run a water taxi right from Logan?
I guess. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, if they do. Yeah.
I know there was a water taxi for a short period. I don't know if it was seasonal. I don't know if it was a trial.
Right.
I don't remember if it went to downtown, but yeah. Anyway, yeah. But like I said, I'm biased. I'm biased in favor of the Revere property because, and I'll state the obvious, if that uh, if that parcel that used to be the Greyhound racing track right near Wonderland Station could get developed into something that was high demand, it would further push the red blue connector, which is in my best interest. So again, I'm biased, but there you go. Um,
Yeah.
couple more just quick notes about the event. I ran into a lot of people that haven't seen in a while. I just said hi and thank you to Eric Studoff, who was formerly the MBTA chief engineer.
Yeah. Where's he these
Um,
days?
right now, I don't know. Sorry,
Uh,
but he's no longer with the MBTA.
yeah.
Um, also ran into, and I think he might have recognized me before I recognized him. Steve Hicks,
Yeah.
and I was overjoyed to see him, and he was thrilled to see me. And we
Good.
had a big, long conversation about what he's been doing, what we've been doing on this committee, and I thanked him for all the years of his support. And he said he thought it was so valuable to have the organization like ours that he said he used the expression puts our money where our mouth is. Like, we give our time to this Bright Oversight Committee because we feel it's valuable. And he thanked me. He thanked us for all that. So,
Right.
Steve Hicks,
I appreciate that.
wonderful guy.
Yeah.
But there's a little bit of a tidbit for the future.
Yeah.
Uh, Steve told me that I should contact him. I think like with the support of other committee members. Any concerns if I write to Steve, as he invited me to do, to have him refer us to the current person at the T who's now in his old job?
That'd be great. Yeah, it'd be nice to that'd be great. I mean, let's take him up on that as soon as possible, because so what is he up to?
He is not fully retired, um,
All right,
but I don't remember.
that's fine.
There was so much that day,
Right. Was
but I will certainly find out.
yeah. Was Gonneville there?
I did not see Jeff Gonneville.
Yeah. So yeah,
Nope.
no, let's take Steve Hicks up on that offer. I mean, as soon as possible would be good because I mean, one of the things. I mean, people have to move on for whatever reasons, especially. I
Yep.
mean, those have been there for a long time, but then you're like, well, hey, yeah, we have these relationships. I mean, and we like these people, we know them, we feel comfortable with them, but also your access to that role, and then when they
Yep.
leave, because of the nature of the group now, we don't automatically get introduced, to
Yep.
the person that is replacing them,
Yep.
so
And
yeah,
just as a final note about personal interactions, I did make it a point to sort of pull aside Ryan Caholen, who you may remember used to be
yeah,
our commuter rail representative on the Rock for a while, and then he became the director of commuter rail operations, and he's now the chief operating officer. And uh, just had a quick chat with him. He was thrilled to see me. He thanked me for coming, and I thanked him for all his work, and a really great rapport.
that's great, excellent. I'm
Yep.
sure he's really busy, but there is other
Oh,
guy
absolutely.
from the commuter rail, that we could touch base with, at some point. So yeah, so I'll reach out to Bill Wolfgang, and maybe
Yeah.
you can reach out to Steve
Steve
Hicks,
Hicks.
and maybe
Yeah.
we can get an introduction to that person for the May meeting, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah,
Yeah, I'm remembering now. Steve Hicks told me that since we had been to the Everett shops, where I don't know if you remember, it was the Everett shops where we had the farewell and thank you for Secretary Jeff Mullen, who was stepping down as the Secretary of Transportation to be
yeah,
replaced by Rich Davey,
right,
who was the former head of MBCR, who moved into the
right,
MBTA GM position, who replaced Jeff Mullen as the State Secretary of Transportation.
right,
So we had that barbecue and farewell for Jeff. Congrats to Rich Davey at the Everett shops, and we got a tour.
right.
Steve Hicks told me that since The Rock was there for that event, they have spent millions on improving the facility in terms of upgrading the equipment, optimizing, modernizing, and he said it's absolutely worth seeing again for all of the improvements that have been made.
That's great. So maybe we can ask Darren, for to set up a tour for us, or or
Actually, Steve said that that would be the kind of thing that his um,
successor.
the yes, the person who's in his old role would be able
Yeah,
to do. And I believe he hinted that this woman who's in his old position, I believe he hinted that she would love to. That she loves having people come in and see the place.
that's great.
So
Well,
yeah.
well, definitely take him up on that offer, and that could. Well, I think when we do that tour, that's when we could get, our goodies, from Darren,
Oh yeah,
and
that's a
that
good
may be
idea.
something that could, maybe I'm sure Jacob Deck would be interested. Well, yeah, maybe I'll talk. I'll talk about that a little bit more. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep, I
uh,
hope Jacob's doing all right. I miss
I hope
seeing
he
him.
is too. Yeah, and that's why I hesitated. I hope he is. And so, but because this is recorded, I just don't feel that I should.
No, no, no. Of course not. No, no, no.
Divulge
Don't.
anything
Yeah.
remotely personal because I don't know. But I hope he's doing all right.
Yeah. Exactly.
He
That, like.
he he,
Yeah.
he cares a lot. And it's a very challenging environment that a lot of us are in. Some of us who are older, perhaps have an easier time with things, and maybe some of us who are older have a harder time. But I keep thinking, like, oh man, if I was that age, how would I be like dealing with the current environment? It's got to be rough. Yeah. So, um,
Yep.
so, so,
Yep.
anyways,
Well said.
yeah. So, um, I will save the decks for next time. There's
Oh, of
a
course. Yeah, that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. So it's just 8 minutes, and the only thing I was going to mention to Wig, but you were there also, was meeting that was done regarding the high rail car access, Alewife. Yeah,
I was gonna bring that up if you didn't. So,
yeah,
yep,
yeah.
we should cover that in a future meeting because, um, you know what? We should probably drop Wig an email asking him if he's got any information on. I mean,
Right.
we don't want him to be digging anything up, but I'm I was kind of blown away that for the second of those two red line access tunnel meetings, it sounded like the members of the public attending felt like they had a greater handle on what needs to be done to mitigate asbestos in the soil, more so from the public than from the experts on the project. And I'll just speak for myself. I found that really annoying that there was so much second guessing of the and just the sense from so many of the people at that meeting that just they were just saying that the experts on that project were wrong.
Well, yeah. There's that. Am I interrupting you?
No, 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 no.
I,
It was a very poorly formed sentence. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
no problem. So, well, there's that, but also I think, um, members of the public, I mean, of which we are one,
Hmm.
we have often, I think, a lower tolerance for risk, and so generally we want that risk to be zero. And the entity that is doing something is saying, it can't be zero. And this is the level at which we feel comfortable moving forward.
Hmm.
And folks are like, but no, that's too high. And it's like almost any number is going to be too high. And
Yeah.
then when kids are part of the equation, then people get very, very passionate, and
Yeah.
so I think that's the deal is that the T has said this we feel is an acceptable level of risk, and the public is saying no,
Mhm.
and so
That's a
uh,
very good take on it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and so yeah,
Oh
so
yeah.
yeah,
Oh
that's all I have to say. Go ahead.
yeah. 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 Well, don't get me wrong. I am one of the first to say that people are entitled to their opinions. I never want to dissuade somebody from taking a stand, having an opinion, expressing their opinion.
Right.
Um, but there's experts, and then there's the concerned public, who eh,
Right.
I'm digging myself a hole here, so I'll
No,
stop.
no, I understand. No, I know exactly where you're coming from, and yeah, because I mean, I spend a lot of time being in the same role, being as the T folks are, and even so, I tell people, yes, I'm on the power side of the table, but I spend most of my time and I have spent most of my time being on the other side of the table, and so I'm not telling you that your concerns don't matter. I
Right.
certainly understand your concerns, and you're when we say that there's an acceptable level of risk, then what folks are hearing is that so then if I'm the person, if I end up being that one, in a million, you're pretty much saying that's unfortunate. But for the greater good, and we had to harm you, in some way, and there are folks who just don't want to take that risk. And they just
Yep.
don't see the reward as worth it. It's like, well, you want this, and you want me to potentially lose a loved one or lose myself, and then they also will disagree with your calculation of the level of risk. And that's where what you're saying, is that you have experts and you have people who feel that they are knowledgeable. But I think it's good. I don't mean I think it's good as if I'm wondering what it's going to be. I'm glad we live in a society where the public can grill the powers that be really hard,
Yep.
and push us really hard, and protest and perhaps we'll change if we can,
Mhm.
but I know that the T, is taking, that input seriously. And even though, I don't know the people there, I just know because I just know how public entities work. And I know when in Arlington we get, people who we have issues about when we ask for public input, we read the public input and
Yeah.
we take it seriously. And I want to draw a distinction between that, and a letter writing campaign that's just making the same point because ultimately it's not a vote. So we're not putting the decision making up to a vote. So it's not a matter of like you can corral a whole bunch of people to say we don't want this. That's not the way we're going to make the decision. The decision is going to be made on what are the arguments for it versus what are the arguments against it, and then we make an assessment based on those arguments. So, but we want to live in a society that encourages people, to make those arguments. Feel comfortable making those arguments, and then challenge your assessment. So that's where they are. And I thought the folks
Yeah.
in the team handled it well.
Oh,
They were
absolutely.
they were courteous,
Oh yeah.
respectful. I thought they were
Yep.
answering questions in a straightforward manner.
Yep.
So yeah,
Oh yeah. And I know I mentioned in a previous meeting about the public meeting at Reading for the turnback track in order to get trains up to the
Right.
desired level of service. And they're also, I mean, in case I didn't give a shout out to the MBTA, Keolis, contractor employees at that Reading public meeting. Yes, they were they were absolutely prepared to answer every question. They maintained a cool demeanor in the face of lots of heated comment and questioning
Right.
from the public. So yeah, same thing in that Reading meeting as with the Cambridge Arlington Red Line Tunnel.
Right.
Um, Absolutely just
Yeah.
wonderful presentation and
Yeah.
response and
Right.
handling a
Uh,
tough situation by the
right.
agency and the contractors.
Yeah. So I have to say I was amused, when some of the people would say, well, let Arlington like build this thing in Arlington so that
Oh,
so
yeah.
that they take some of the load. Like us in Cambridge, we've been dealing with this stuff. I mean, like Arlington needs to share some of the load. I can't tell you the number of times I hear people in Arlington say, I can't believe we have to take the stuff that Cambridge is giving us because I mean, folks in Arlington are really upset about the combined sewer overflows, from Cambridge and Somerville, and legitimately so. I mean, we do get these overflows, into the Alewife Brook, oh man, and it's pretty nasty. And folks are like, Cambridge wants to do more
Oh,
development. That's just going to mean like more sewerage during the overflows. And
oh,
so Arlington, especially interestingly, people who don't live in East Arlington, but hey, it's a small community, and so we
yeah.
all have friends all over the place. And so people who don't live in East Arlington care about people who live in East Arlington, but sometimes I feel like they care more than those of us who do live in East
Hmm.
Arlington about the CSOs. But still, it's a big deal. So, but I was just saying, it was funny to hear folks in Cambridge go, "Well, Arlington needs to needs to do something to help us, deal with the
Hmm.
demands that come from the T to make the system better."
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah. Hey, it, the Red Line Access Tunnel might not be going in where it was if Arlington hadn't put up such a fight about the Red Line extension 30, 40 years ago.
Well, I think I asked Jonathan, and I'll have to check my mail about that
Hmm.
because I kind of asked me like, what would I forget the question I asked me. Let me check my email. Because I don't want to ask again because Jonathan's going to respond again, and I know he already responded. And so
Oh,
I
okay.
might have an answer. I might have an answer to that. And so let me dig through my email, and then I'll send you what he sent.
Okay.
And,
I have
uh,
a funny feeling he might have sent that to both of us, and I'm forgetting. But
yeah,
yeah, if you find it,
yeah.
yeah, please, yeah, forward it again to me because I either wasn't on that conversation in email or I've forgotten all about it. Either
Yeah,
way, that'd be
he
great
might
to
have
see.
mentioned it at a later meeting, so anyways, so I don't think we could honestly any homework in this meeting, but if there's
Yep.
anything interesting that he wants to respond to, he will, and that's always appreciated.
Yep.
So I think I'm ready to go.
I think we can wrap this up. Thank you very much for
Yeah,
the little extra time at the end here.
sure, sure. And I'll send Sam a thank you note. He's a really good guy.
Oh, he was
Very
great.
conscious.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yep.
all right.
I'm glad we were able to get him out right as scheduled. I think he disconnected from Zoom at like 6:01. So
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
we kept up our end of the bargain.
Yeah. All
Thank you
righty.
again.
Take care. Bye
See
bye.
you in a couple weeks.
All right.
Good night.
Good
And good
night.
night to all who are watching.